Welcome to the version of Street Fighter Alpha 2 that took a miracle to run. The Super Nintendo version. Oh yeah. This is the version of the game that Noritaka Funamizu wanted to have out there for some reason. He was the planner of Alpha 2. His mandate was, I wanted to make sure as many people as possible could play Street Fighter Alpha 2. And oh, you got your wish. But at what cost? So I figured I'd just do a Dan run of Alpha 2 SNES and call it there, because this port is as much of a joke as Dan Hibiki himself. But we actually need to do this legit, for several reasons. So we'll pick Ken for the run. So the most interesting thing about Alpha 2 for the Super Nintendo is that it runs slower than the arcade version. But that's not the most infamous thing about Alpha 2. Just the fact that there's a big pause in between the games loading the fight. There was a really good video by MVG, Modern Vintage Gamer, where he states that one of the sound processors is not playing nice with the main memory bus. So the data isn't loading as instantaneous, so it takes a while to get there. And I present to you, wait for it, a while to get there. So when you think of this game having to load all the time between rounds, that's kind of the reason. One of the sound processors is a little bugged. So the game speed just changes radically. You're not exactly getting the arcade experience here, unlike, say, your constant Street Fighter 2 ports. Yeah, Alpha 2 was a lot beefier than the Street Fighter 2 games. It had a lot more data to process, a lot more data to crunch. So you're looking at this modern miracle. It plays like Street Fighter, but it just doesn't have the speed. And what you end up with is a game clearly designed for more advanced hardware, playing on a last-gen console. Like, if you don't have a Saturn or a PlayStation, this was kind of your only option. But it does kind of beg the question of why Capcom didn't wait for the Nintendo 64 to come out. I mean, look at the controller, the 6-button layout, it was meant for Street Fighter. It was meant for those kinds of games. And it's not like they didn't come out. Mortal Kombat Trilogy got an N64 port. A damn good one at that. Oh, I'm sorry, Relento. You just get no time to play. So yeah, it baffles me that a Nintendo 64 port wasn't even in the works. Sure, you'd have to wait a little while longer, but it would absolutely be worth it. At least that's what I feel. I'd play Street Fighter on a Nintendo 64, wouldn't you? It'd probably be preferable to this. Plus, I mean, really, the spray work is pretty sound. They're not as good as they could look, and you can tell the visuals took a massive hit to make this happen. This was a misstep. Didn't want to do a super there, but I got a little antsy. Plus, you can tell some of the color is missing, so things like the super combo text, it doesn't feel right. It seems like it's brighter than the console can handle. It just kind of has the feeling of a hack job. Except this was developed by Capcom themselves. There we are. Thank God the difficulty is dumbed down significantly, because Super Nintendo. It gives me time to kind of talk about this game in less of a technical sense and more of a how, why, what, but mostly why. Because the how part was still being figured out, even 20 years after the game came out. Because it got reverse engineered, and people discovered secrets like the ability to play as Shin Akuma. I mean, sure, you'd have to actually beat arcade mode. Sure, you'd have to put in, like, a secret code. Sure, you'd have to put in certain initials to unlock it, but he's there. He's absolutely there if you want him. And the thing is, the modding community goes above and beyond sometimes when it comes to this game, because, as it turns out, people have reverse engineered this game to the point that if you have an SD to SNES, you can not only get this game with improved load times, because, spoilers, they fixed the issue with the sound processor, but you get actual music from the arcade game, bringing it a little closer to code. But getting that version to play on emulator, A, is not worth the hassle, B, detracts from the authenticity of this game. It is a wonder. It's a bad Alpha 2, but it's a fascinating Alpha 2. Mostly in the fact that the game runs as well as you'd expect. I mean, Alpha 2 has slowed down significantly. I put on the turbo setting, and even then, it's not the speed you expect. There we go. Kind of weird.
Round 2, fight!
And it is a good idea. It just kind of strikes a chord with me that when games were being ported to Nintendo's Virtual Console, oh, we're gonna get Alpha 2. That's pretty sweet. But it's this version of Alpha 2 we get. Because nobody knows how the Sega Saturn works. And, well, Nintendo isn't gonna stick a PlayStation version on there. Capcom's not gonna bother porting over the arcade version. They're gonna save that for an anniversary collection. So, Virtual Console people, this is all you were stuck with. If you had a Wii U, you could just get this game while you still can. Also, so Final Fight on the Super Nintendo had notable censorship. This guy, who was originally named Sodom, had his name changed to Katana, and I'm guessing the reason is Nintendo is kind of allergic to religious connotations, as you do. Nintendo was basically the Disney of game publishing. So if you're gonna play on our console, you play by our rules. And Capcom did, for the longest time. Most of the Super Nintendo's legendary library is owed to Capcom. Mega Man X, obviously. You do have a few stinkers on there, like Mega Man Soccer, but you know, you learn from your mistakes. And they stuck around with Super Nintendo longer than most. The Super Famicom got a new Mega Man game in 1998. So it wasn't like Capcom stopped supporting Nintendo games and Nintendo consoles. They just didn't want any part of the Nintendo 64. So their output was mostly ports. They were already fascinated, love-struck, if you will, by the Sony PlayStation and the Sega Saturn and just about everyone else that wasn't the Nintendo 64. And you guys got Mega Man 64. It's a port of a PlayStation game. You got Resident Evil 2. That game's another miracle in and of itself. Oh, hey, Dan. I think he might know the art of fighting. He might be the self-proclaimed king of... Okay, I'll stop there. So if you're really good at the game, or you're playing Alpha 2 on the SNES, you get this secret fight. And this secret fight is mostly Dan Hibiki. Dan is about as difficult as you expect him to be. Oh, I'm giving you the business, friend. There are other secret fights in my arcade version of Alpha 2. I did get a Sakat fight with Sakura, and granted that That was an actually hard fight. Dan, not so much. You can't make this character intimidating or difficult. Alright, back to our regularly scheduled Final Fight guy. So this stage is littered with Final Fight cameos, and it's appropriate because it brings the Street Fighter universe full circle. After all, in the first stage of Final Fight 2, you can just catch Chun-Li having, like, some ramen, having a nice meal in the first stage of Final Fight 2. And of course, as I've mentioned before, Final Fight was originally a Street Fighter game. So it all brings it around real nicely. Because from this point forward, Final Fight characters would be a mainstay in the Street Fighter franchise, ever since Alpha. Just about every Street Fighter game has done whatever they can to include a Final Fight character. Street Fighter 3 took a while to get there. I was not expecting that. Street Fighter 3 took a while to get there. They eventually added Hugo. He was supposed to be a new generation, but he wasn't ready in time. You can still see some of his early draft sprites in the game data for New Generation. And obviously, Super Street Fighter 4 added Final Fight characters. Street Fighter 5 got some eventually through DLC. Street Fighter 6, despite, as of this moment, advertising itself as taking place in Metro City, no Final Fight characters announced so far. And I'm keeping the leaks in mind too. What, a double fight? Okay. Oh. Oh, okay. Speak of the devil. We have Shin Akuma, I believe.
Round 1, fight!
So the most noteworthy thing to know you're fighting Shin Akuma is if he throws double fireballs. But he's definitely faster. I seem to be getting rather... There it is, yeah, it's Shin Akuma. Okay. So maybe this Alpha 2 run was more eventful than I thought it was going to be. Okay. Alright, he's keeping me out. Ah, it was a bad time to do that. Yeah. Even if Akuma is definitely the Fireball King here, not really any time to recover my Fireball game, because by the time I throw another Fireball at him, he is already in the air, bombarding me. Oh, God. He juggled me off that? Boy, you really don't feel like getting hit today. I'm taking that. Ah, there's so much stamina. Oh! Ooh! Okay. Oh, you threw the entire piggy bank at me there. That was... That was kind of a bummer. In any case, let's get back to our Ryu in progress. Yeah, this is normally the final fight for Ken, his never-ending rivalry. What did you do to Sagat, Ryu? I mean, if you're referring to the incident in Alpha 1, I can explain that. Alright. But yeah, the normal AI is nothing. The arcade version soups them up to more of a mind-reading capability, but here they're just as much of a pushover. An insulting amount of pushover here. Oh my god, the chunk. Ryu, why did you even bother? Alright. So with that easy run out of the way, that is Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the Super Nintendo done. Ken gave him his red bandana. It's story lore. But yeah, that is this game down. But that's not the Alpha 2 you want to see. Don't tell anybody. But I have another Alpha 2 planned. Hopefully I can play it soon.